And good evening. We are doing it live right here, weeknights in the 5 o'clock hour. Yabba Dabba Do time here on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money, 5 nights a week for you, live on the air here on 790 KABC, streaming live online worldwide at KBC.com, and your on-demand Mottek On Money podcast at KBC.com, Apple, iTunes, and all of your favorite podcast platforms. Well, Sox kicking off the new week with gains extending last week's impressive rally. In fact, happened to be the best week of the year for stocks last week and handing the Dow its longest winning streak since late July, following the best week for stocks in 2023. The Dow today ending higher by just about 35 points. The S&P 500 up nearly 8, and the NASDAQ managed a closing gain of 40.5 points. Last week, the Dow rallied 5.1%. The S&P 500 jumped 5.9%, and the NASDAQ posted a gain of 6.6%, all the biggest weekly gains of the year. Stocks found new momentum today, adding to the climb from last week that occurred after Fed Chairman Jerome Powell had his comments dissected. Signs of a cooling labor market. We got that big jobs report on Friday, forcing bond yields sharply lower. Expectations have also been growing that the Fed might be finished raising interest rates, and that has set off for this rally. Yields on the 10-year note and other benchmark bonds jumping back a bit to 4.66%. A few weeks ago, that rate had hit a 16-year high above 5%, impacting fixed-rate mortgage rates, which hit 23-year highs. Taking a look at the other movers today, the price of oil moving a bit higher today by 31 cents at 80.82 as we keep an eye on what's happening in the Middle East. Oil futures moving up on a modest gain here after Saudi Arabia and Russia, as expected, confirmed that they would extend production cuts through the end of December. In the Middle East, the Israeli army severed northern Gaza from the rest of the besieged territory and pounded it with airstrikes today, preparing for expected ground battles with Hamas terrorists in Gaza's largest city. I'll discuss the latest in the Middle East tonight with Middle East expert Lisa Daftari, the editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk. We're also watching what's happening in Hollywood, of course, as Hollywood holds its breath as the producers have presented the last, best, and final offer to SAG-AFTRA. Looks like no deal at this point. We'll talk about it with entertainment attorney Jonathan Handel coming up later this hour. Elon Musk has unveiled a wisecracking AI chatbot called Grok over the weekend. Of course, AI a big issue in the SAG-AFTRA strike. The new product from his artificial intelligence startup xAI is modeled after the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, he says, and is designed to answer questions with a bit of wit and has a rebellious streak, so please don't use it if you hate humor, he said. Actually, the company put that out in a blog post announcing the launch over the weekend. It will also answer spicy questions that are rejected by most other AI systems. It's been a frustrating day for a lot of consumers over the weekend and today as well. A processing glitch in the network that processes electronic transfers between nearly all U.S. bank accounts led to delays in settling deposits, some of which remain stalled, according to the private company that operates the system. The Clearinghouse Payments Company said today that a technical glitch last week resulted in some payment information sent to banks with account numbers, customer names masked, preventing them from being processed immediately. Rough day for Dish Network stock, plunging to the lowest seen in 25 years after posting third-quarter earnings that fell well below Wall Street analyst expectations and reporting steep customer losses as a lot of people got rid of the dish. Right now, on your money, the markets and the economy, it's time to bring in live with us now Ben Stein for our occasional Frank and Stein conversation here on Mottek On Money. Ben Stein, of course, well-known financial and political commentator, author, lawyer, presidential speechwriter, game show host on Win Ben Stein's Money, and actor, too. Played the economics professor in Ferris Bueller's Day Off in one of the most famous scenes in American cinema. That's the Ben Stein who's on the air with us now. Ben, thank you very much for taking the call here. And
my pleasure, sir.
All right, give us your view of the world here at the moment.
Well, a lot of trouble, a lot of very scary things happening. I don't think the world has absorbed in any sensible way the horrible massacre of Jewish children, women, old people, families that took place at the hands of the terrorist organization Hamas on the 7th of October. I think this is perhaps the worst thing that I have seen since I've been a conscious sentient person, although I was born November 25th, 1944, and the Holocaust was still going on then. But to have a large, extremely well-organized, well-armed group break into Israel and massacre approximately 1,400 people. Some in the most cruel ways imaginable, such as cutting open pregnant women's stomachs, ripping out their infants and chopping their heads off. I don't think the world has understood yet, even remotely, how horrible that was. And to me, the idea that after that kind of astounding cruelty was visited upon Israel, that the world is now asking Israel for a humanitarian pause in fighting back against those killers and torturers is astounding. It's just absolutely astounding. I mean, that the Israelis should be now expected to be humanitarians after they've been subjected to this cruelty on a level that really is just unimaginable, I would say, in 2023, and yet it happened, and the Hamas is trying to do more. They're trying to do more of it, and the many Americans, especially Muslim Americans, are pleading with America to not let Israel stop them, to keep Israel from fighting back. I had no idea that the Muslims in America were such a powerful bloc, but apparently they are, and I just don't see any end to this except something extremely bad. And I think at some point Israel's going to have to use the atom bomb, and it's a really, really awful situation. It's just terrible. I mean, the fact that hundreds of thousands of Americans are demonstrating in favor of people whose occupation is to murder infants and to rape women and then bury them alive. That's appalling. This is America. It's incredible, appalling that this is happening.
On there live with Ben Stein, and it's unbelievable, Ben. The unthinkable has happened, and today Israel once again rejecting calls for a pause in the war with Hamas, including one from President Biden. What's your assessment of how the administration has handled this situation, trying to restrain Israel from fighting back and defending itself?
Well, I don't know what Mr. Biden can do. Mr. Biden, I don't think ever expected that the Muslim American population or Arab/Muslim American population would become such a powerful part of the voters in the Democrat Party, and I don't think he's able to figure out what to do about it, because apparently just the fact that he has stood up for Israel and said that they have the right to defend themselves has alienated a great many Muslim and left-leaning Arab Americans, and apparently this is jeopardizing his renomination by the Democrats, not to mention whether or not he can win the election. And I mean, this idea that we have a very large Muslim population in America that could decide elections, I don't think anyone is counting on that, and I don't think people know what to do about it. I remind some Mr. Nixon and I talked about many years ago, because bear in mind, I used to go down to visit with Mr. Nixon quite often after he left office when he was down in San Clemente, and he said that the most difficult problem to solve in the whole world is the so-called Palestine situation. And Palestinians, he said, he did not see any way to deal with them. I'm not going to repeat what he said, but something that upset a lot of people. But he realized it was a very difficult situation, and it's getting worse.
On there live with Ben Stein, and the latest poll, you might have seen it or not, in the New York Times, reporting former President Trump leading President Biden in 5 of the 6 most important battleground states 1 year before the 2024 elections. Give us your assessment of that report and size up the presidential race at this point.
Well, it sure looks like Mr. Trump is going to win by a landslide, and I don't think the Democrats who went wild with extremely excessive prosecutorial misconduct bargained on the fact that this would get more voters for Mr. Trump and not fewer. And this is, I think at this point, just the whole game, the whole political game has been thrown up in the air. I'm reminded of when I was a child, we used to play this game called 52 Pickup. I'm sure you remember, too, where you just take a deck of cards and throw them up in the air. I think that's what's happening now. We have something like 52 pickup with politics. We don't know what the heck is going on. And but as I say, the fact that we have a powerful, at least important voting bloc explicitly supporting mass murder of civilians, mass rape of civilians, burying civilians alive. The fact that we have a large bloc of those people in the United States of America is just blood-curdling.
Ben Stein, let me ask you this. Today we saw President Trump in court, and he sparred with the New York State judge there, slamming the state attorney general, suing him, using the witness stand at a civil fraud trial to defend himself and lash out at the case. I don't know if you've been following this, but never seen anything like this. Your reaction to that, sir?
I think, as I said, we're saying something really wicked, which is that the Democrat Party is using the prosecutorial system to attack candidates in an election, even long before the election has started. And this is a way of taking law and using it to trample upon political expression. And not a good situation, not something that's going to make America a freer, more law-abiding country. It's something that's going to make America terrified of dealing in any meaningful way with the prosecutors across the United States. And the prosecutors across the United States have turned out, like the media, to just be a wing of the Democrat Party. And it's not the way law is supposed to work. All
right, what about Iran's fingerprints on all of this? Once again, we're seeing
very nasty people. That's funny. I was watching some TV show, I forget which one, last night, and some comment.
Former Navy SEAL Sean Ryan shares real stories from real people from all walks of life on The Sean Ryan Show.
Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett.
Where do the majority of UAP sightings happen?
Yeah, military installations, but I couch that. I mean, if they're going to fly here and check something out, they're going to see where our best and brightest are, I would assume. They asked me about seeing any UFOs in Washington, D.C., and I said, no. I said, there's no intelligent life around here.
The Sean Ryan Show on YouTube or wherever you listen.
They were saying, well, Iran, we're going to have to deal with them. I think they probably want peace. And I thought to myself, really? They begin every day session of their parliament by saying death to America, death to Israel. You think that shows that they want peace? I mean, these are people who really are in love with death, and they're going to get plenty of it, and they're going to give out plenty of it. But gee whiz, this is wow, we have really got some dangerous people walking around, and some of them are going to have nuclear bombs very soon if they don't have them already.
You've been around a long time and have had a front row seat to so many of the world events at the highest levels. Ben, are we at the most dangerous point that you've ever seen here?
Not really as worse than the Cuban Missile Crisis, but aside from that, I'd say it's the most dangerous. And I'd say the general tenor of political and legal life in the United States of America is the worst it's ever been since, I'd say even worse than the Civil War, because in the Civil War there were no nuclear bombs. I'd say certainly the only thing that would come close in terms of its wickedness and its danger to the human animal is the Civil War.
All right. In the meantime, I know you follow what's happening at the gas station of the Stars there in Beverly Hills and follow the economy very closely based on what's happening there, primarily, I know, right, with gas prices now finally easing despite the upheaval in the Middle East. Give us your view of the economy at this point.
Well, the economy is fantastically strong, but it is getting weaker, and we like that because that means likely a weakening of inflation and a slowdown of inflation, and that we hope be an opportunity for more people to buy homes, more people to buy refrigerators, more people buying television sets. I think we would not normally want the economy to weaken, but this time we do, and we'll see if it does. I have been shopping quite a bit recently, and I do not personally, with my own eyes, see much sign of weakening, but the data is pretty unequivocal. The economy is weakening, although very little by little, and it's still possible that the government can reverse that and can have the economy rev up again. It's very possible they can do that.
All right, I know you love real estate, and I saw this report, but the affordability for real estate in America is down to about a 30-plus year low at this point, and we did get the latest reading since we last spoke about the home prices ticking higher, of course, again here in this area and San Diego and other key areas here in California. What's your view on where real estate goes from here?
Well, that's, again, a great question, but I think it's got nowhere to go but up. It might pause, but people want houses. Houses turn out to be an incredibly good investment. The fact that the imputed rent, that is the fact that you can get the benefit of rent, of the rental value of your house without having to pay tax on it, is a gigantic miracle for homeowners, and I don't see that miracle wearing off. And people who have bought houses rarely have regretted it.
Any other specific places where Ben Stein is putting Ben Stein's money and or taking it off the table?
Well, it's a rather sad reason, but as you know, I think my son passed away at a very early age, and at the beginning of the summer, and so I'm putting a lot of it in the accounts for my granddaughter to pay for her to go to whatever school she cares to go to.
Well, God bless you and your family, Ben. We always appreciate your amazing expertise and experience here, and we want to look forward to our next conversation here and our next Frankenstein conversation. Ben, thank you very much for taking the call here tonight.
God bless you, sir. The sooner the better. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. Bye. That is the one and only Ben Stein, live with us here tonight on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. Coming up, I'll take a closer look at where the action was today on Wall Street. We'll take a look at WeWork and some other big stories in the news today. That and more straight ahead. People like you and me have our ear to the ground, all things business, and we like to be informed and well prepared. And as important as finance is, I want to make sure you have a plan in case you're hit by someone not paying attention to the road. Thinking ahead serves us well, and even still, we can't get caught off guard as people are so focused on their destinations that they might not have a plan if they're in an accident. That's not their fault. And that's why I encourage you to put my friend, Attorney Clark Fielding's number in your phone, 833-88-SHARK. So if you're in an accident, you'll be ready to win with your strategy to make Clark Fielding your first call. Fielding Law aims for the highest possible settlements, considering you might need long-term care, rehab, compensation for lost wages, and any ongoing physical or emotional pain. So if you're hurt in any kind of accident, call for a free consultation with Fielding Law. You can trust them. They're honest, respected, and your strategy in case you get into that unexpected accident. Motorcycle, truck, pedestrian, scooter, hit and run, boating, or bicycle accidents, you name it, call 833-88-SHARK. That's 833-88-SHARK, or go to clarkthesharklaw.com. Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KABC. Good evening. Another winning day for the stock market, extending last week's big rally, which happened to be the best week of the year we've seen so far for the stock market. The Dow coming in for a closing gain of 34.5 to 34,096. The S&P 500 moving higher by 8 points at 4,366, and the Nasdaq gained 40 at 13,519. The yield in the 10-year note down to 4.65%. In the cryptos, we see Bitcoin pulling back about $30 now at $35,000. Ethereum up 5 at $1,897, and Doge at 7 cents. The price of oil moving up 31 cents today to $80.82 a barrel. At Southern California gas pumps, prices have come down, regular down another penny overnight to 5 1/4 on average in the LA Long Beach area. Premium now at $5.61, and diesel still stubbornly high above $6 at $6.07 a gallon. Looks like a regular and premium down about 85 cents compared to a month ago. Diesel's down about 40 cents compared to a month ago. Shares of WeWork were halted for news, as they've been halted since before the open. The flexible workspace company, so-called creative space company, did not respond to requests for comments regarding to the halt. The stock was up 35% in pre-market before the halt. On Friday, the Business Wire press release service issued its own release saying investors should disregard a previously release that ran with a headline about a proposal by Cole Capital Funds seeking to acquire some shares of WeWork. The stock had plunged nearly 66% last week, the biggest weekly loss since the stock started trading in its current form in October of 2021, to close Friday at a record low of just 84 cents. Elon Musk making news again. This time an AI chatbot called Grok was unveiled over the weekend. Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KBC. Turning now to the Middle East, the Israeli army severing northern Gaza from the rest of that territory and pounding it with airstrikes today, preparing for an expected ground battle with Hamas terrorists in Gaza's largest city. New threats, meanwhile, coming in today from Iran's regime against the U.S. and increased pressure on Israel for a ceasefire or some sort of a pause, but not calling for the hostages to be released. We heard Israel once again rejecting calls for a humanitarian pause in the war with Hamas, including one from President Biden. The White House said the president spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, but could not get him to agree to a halt in the offensive that began with the terror attack on Israel on October 7th, which started the war in which 1,400 Israelis were killed. Secretary of State Blinken also failed in a similar effort to get Israel to pause. Let's bring in our Middle East expert now, Lisa Daftari, the editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk. Lisa Daftari, thank you very much for joining us and for following all these important developments with us very closely. First of all, give us the latest on what you have there.
Good evening. Actually, we're following a more local story that is very, very relevant to this. I don't know if you've heard about the Westlake man dying after having injuries. He was at a protest yesterday and got into an altercation, verbal altercation, and was beaten, fell to the ground, and today he died of his injuries. So this is obviously being investigated right now as a hate crime, obviously filling the internet right now. But as things escalate in the Middle East, thousands of miles away, things are escalating here as well, both in Los Angeles and in major cities all throughout the world. We're not getting any closer to freeing those hostages or any closer to a ceasefire. Of course, Antony Blinken traveling to the Middle East, trying to, of course, calm things. And most importantly, I think the priority for the United States is not to get involved in this war as much as Iran's regime, the one who is pulling the puppet strings, would love for the United States to get involved and is trying to provoke the United States by going after our assets where the Iran regime has proxies in Syria and in Iraq, and of course using their Houthis in Yemen, and of course Hezbollah in Lebanon to attack Israel as well. So I want people to understand that this is a much larger war of Iran's regime attacking the big Satan, the United States, and the small Satan, which is Israel. This is something they have sworn to do from the first day of their inception, 1979, when the Ayatollah Khomeini came into power, and he said, we will always attack the big Satan and the little Satan. And that is exactly what we're seeing today unfold in Israel. Unfortunately, Israel has to fight this fight for the rest of the world. They're fighting Hamas, a horrific terror organization that is after all of us, is after us here in the United States. Many people speaking about the threat and the probability of there being another 9/11 type attack here in the United States because of their fixation on attacking the West. That's where we have it for today.
On there live with Lisa Daftari, and I'm seeing now for the first time, Lisa, the statement from the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, which says an elderly Jewish man was killed in Westlake Village on Monday after an anti-Israel protester struck him in the head with a megaphone. The statement reads, "Our hearts are with the family of the victims." The Federation says, while we wait for more information from our law enforcement partners, we remind you that this is the fourth major anti-Semitic crime committed in Los Angeles this year alone. And I think you've reported a dramatic increase in anti-Semitic incidents, not only in this area, but across the country. And even in L.A. schools, it's become a big issue. Tell us more about that.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it was reported just over the weekend that the L.A. Teachers Union handed out talking points, anti-Israel talking points to their teachers to be taught into the classroom. So this indoctrination starts way before college. I know we're seeing a problem on university campuses where we're seeing a lot of anti-Semitism, but spreading that hatred from a very young age and very much misguided. I mean, this is really lacking context to be this one-sided when you cannot condemn Hamas and you cannot look at the situation as really as a moral situation, as wrong. I mean, when can we ever look at rape and say, well, rape is not so bad, or look at murder and say murder is not so bad? And when it trickles out onto the streets of Los Angeles where an old man has to lose his life just for being Jewish, and the world has to stop and say we have a problem. This goes beyond thousands of miles away. This is not over land or a blockade or anything else. Most of the people that are on the street, these thugs that are beating up people because they're Jewish, or the ones who are on college campuses.
how wrestling really works and how you get the ratings. Eric Bischoff and Conrad Thompson explain on 83 Weeks.
Too much time is spent discussing talent's age. The younger demo is just as excited about a Paul Heyman or a John Cena or an Undertaker or Becky Lynch, or I don't care what their birth certificate says, they're going to draw a younger demo because they're fun to watch and they're great entertainers.
83 Weeks on YouTube or wherever you listen.
Asking students if they are Jewish and punching them in the face. We had a student at Massachusetts that just the other day was arrested for this. And that's what we have to start seeing, more consequences for these actions. This has nothing to do with politics or the land. This has everything to do with hatred and bigotry and anti-Semitism. And unfortunately, I mean, this wouldn't fly against any other race, religion, culture. It's time and again, the Jews have been the canary in the coal mine, and this is but is a continuation. It's horrific to see, especially in Los Angeles, where parents have to be afraid of sending their school-age children to school. A woman in Indiana, for example, was arrested because she rammed her car into a building believing it was a Jewish school. She was actually mistaken. But when she was arrested, she confessed that she thought it was a Jewish school. She actually confessed that her target was young children just because they were Jewish. And this is on American soil. I mean, these are people that probably could not place Gaza or Israel on a map. They probably could not tell you the conflict that is currently going on in 2 sentences if their lives depended on it, but yet they are hell-bent on their bigotry, on their hatred, and they're targeting Jews and others who support them, people who are supporting Jews, in a very, very violent way. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was a tweet by a professor here in California who said we should target journalists who are supporting the Zionists. He actually encouraged people to find these journalists' home addresses, to find out where their kids go to school, and to attack them. Again, here in the United States, this is horrific. This has nothing to do with the current conflict. Don't be misled. This is something that has to be stopped. It has to be called out from among us, and there have to be consequences to these hate crimes.
Absolutely horrific, and the ignorance out there is absolutely unbelievable at this point. Now, as far as the president's comments and now the Secretary of State comments, again, trying to hold back Israel from attacking and defending itself, what's your reaction to the way the administration has acted thus far?
Yeah, the administration is trying to straddle both sides, and it actually falls short. They have to be clear. They have to be strong. They have to be clear. When President Biden begins his support of Israel with Israel has every right to defend itself. You cannot then, give specifics as to when, how, where. You can't talk about humanitarian pauses until those hostages come home, and that should be very clear to anyone who has a sane mind. I know that we're seeing all these anti-Semitic crimes, but then Kamala Harris comes out with a memo about how we have to stop Islamophobia. All of us agree that there should be no phobia, there should be no hatred against any group. But at this moment, during this current climate, it would be like when we're talking about BLM and aggression against African Americans, if all of a sudden she came out and said, let's protect the Asians. It just falls short. It's tone deaf. And right now, we see Anthony Blinken going to Mahmoud Abbas and meeting with him, and then meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, trying to calm things down. I mean, I understand that part. But truly, we have to be clear about calling out Hamas. We have to be clear about allowing Israel to finish the job for the rest of us. The job is to decimate Hamas. The job is to get our hostages back. And no one is calling for that. This morning, I woke up to an email from the United Nations, and the subject of the email is we must call for a humanitarian ceasefire. Why aren't we calling for a humanitarian return of the hostages? I mean, it's become so silly at this point. It's crazy. Dangerous is a better word for it, where we cannot be morally clear about what we stand for as a global community, supporting what is right and what is wrong right here. I think President Biden is trying to win everyone over. I mean, when you see these journalists come to the White House briefings and they're all, it's as if it's the Hamas press corps. They're all very misled on the situation, very one-sided. basically defending Hamas, trying to get a ceasefire. All they can think about is ceasefire. No one's talking about the hostages. No one's talking about the fact that Israel was very, very brutally attacked. And any country, any group would have the right to defend itself the way it sees fit. And, at this point, I feel like the White House is under a lot of pressure and a lot of people from the inside. I know the State Department, they filled the cabinet with leftists who are anti-Semites, and now they are fighting the president. We have the squad, people like Rashida Tlaib, who are actually calling for from the river to the sea and defending that line, which is a genocidal line, which calls for the destruction of the state of Israel, and she's defending it and doubling down on it. It's very problematic. I think that we have let these individuals, whether it's on college campuses, whether it's the halls of Congress, whether it's the mainstream media, we have allowed these individuals to get away with these tropes of anti-Semitism for so long. It has become so normalized in our culture that now we're seeing it come to a climax in a way that we never imagined, and now we cannot control it. And we have a president who cannot call it out the way that it needs to be called out because he's probably afraid of losing an election and wants to, whether it's his ideological ways, which that's a whole other hour of conversation. I will say this, though, Frank, very important that the United States stays very consistent in its foreign policy, and that's not something that we have seen from the Biden administration. The one thing that has pretty much been consistent throughout the United States' short history has been how it's been consistent with our ally Israel in the region. It's the only democratic state in the region. It's our main ally in the region. And both President Obama and President Biden were very much iffy on that. He didn't invite Bibi Netanyahu to meet him in the White House. They met on the periphery of the New York UN meetings. It was very obvious that this was not a relationship that he wanted to cultivate, and he was very, very had cold feet about supporting Israel as our ally in the Middle East. In the meantime, we were getting hit by Iran's proxies in Iraq and in Syria, and it continues.
Yeah.
And we're ignoring this part.
Lisa Daftari, thank you very much for that thorough assessment of what's happening. We'll keep an open line to you and follow all of these epic developments at this point. Thank you very much for that important conversation here this evening. That is Lisa Daftari, editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Foreign Desk News. You can follow her tweets as well, and follow her website, and follow the publication, the Foreign Desk. Lisa, thank you very much for joining us live here tonight, and hope to speak with you again very soon. This is Mottek on Money on 790 KBC. Mottek on Money continues here on 790 KBC. The actors' strike continues. Over the weekend, the motion picture industry presented their last, best, and final offer to SAG-AFTRA, the actors' union. And according to the Hollywood Reporter, the very latest here now, as SAG-AFTRA responds to the studio offer, AI protections for high-earning members remain a sticking point. The Hollywood Reporter reports, according to multiple sources familiar with the state of negotiations now, entertainment companies are seeking to pay for scans, but not their use or reuse. When SAG-AFTRA responded to the studio's latest contract offer on Monday, AI protections for high-earning members remained the key sticking point. Following all of these developments closely is entertainment attorney Jonathan Handel, who joins us live right now. Jonathan, what's the latest information you have on where things stand at this point?
Well, Frank, pleasure to be with you. The union, I understand, has sent a counter offer over to the studios. There's some reporting suggesting there may be a meeting even this evening. If not, it would be likely that there would be a meeting tomorrow. Both parties understand that the window for getting a deal done this year, as opposed to having to wait out the holidays and resume negotiations in earnest in January, is really closing quite quickly. People take vacations. You've got hundreds of people on each side of the table who are important to analyzing and advising on this, and the other calendar items that are causing that window to come crushingly down are the need to begin shooting movies for next summer 2024 movie season is in peril at this point. And the other desire is, although we've had unscripted programming on the television networks starting in the fall, the hope would be that we could have mid-season replacements in February for the latter half of the season that would be scripted. That's only possible if a deal gets done pretty promptly. So it's a very short window. Meanwhile, the union is facing – those are the pressures the companies are facing, of course. The union is facing pressure from A-list members and from the community at large, the industry at large, I should say, and the surrounding community to get a deal done. But this is a union that is very determined to get the right deal done and to protect its members from potential AI abuses, and also ensure that they get appropriately compensated in terms of streaming residuals and things of that sort.
On the air live with entertainment law attorney Jonathan Handel, and maybe you can explain for us what this means. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers seeking to secure AI scans for some performers. Is that using image and likeness then under certain circumstances with certain compensation? Maybe you can explain what is the sticking point here now?
Well, the sticking point seems to be that from this reporting that the companies are willing to pay for scanning, but not for the reuse of those scans. So scanning, digital scanning is sort of like photography, but on steroids. Instead of making an image of a person, the computer scanner sensor collects data points that map the shape of someone's face, someone's body, and then those data points can be used to create a digital replica of the person that can then be manipulated by the computer. So the person can smile, they can frown, they can run, they can jog, they can laugh, they can cry. Now, can all this be done completely realistically today? No, but that day is coming soon. We already have deepfake technology that people are probably aware of, and this essentially turbocharges that. So it sounds like the companies are willing, may have made an offer, if the reporting is accurate, to pay if they scan somebody, but not necessarily to pay when they reuse that scan in who knows how many productions. The devil is often in the details in these things, just like you're told to read the fine print whenever you sign something. And so without actually having the exact details of the offers and counteroffers and objections in front of us, it's hard to go deeper than that.
So a high-stakes game of deal or no deal being played this evening. It sounds like, according to the Hollywood Reporter and some other sources, that there is going to be another big meeting this evening with this counterproposal. Any final thoughts here on whether you think we'll get a deal tonight?
It's possible. It does feel like if we don't see a deal tonight, it feels like we'll see a deal in the next day or two. The parties, by all appearances and all reports, are working diligently. They're working hard. This has been very difficult for people who are out of work and who don't have paychecks. This is about middle-class and working-class actors and the effect on middle-class and working-class crew and small business owners and employees throughout the city, and trying to put food on the table, keep a roof over their heads in New York and Los Angeles, two of the most expensive cities in the country.
Right.
Everyone is aware of the seriousness of this.
Entertainment law attorney Jonathan Handel, thank you very much for taking the call on these big developments here related to the SAG-AFTRA strike. And look forward to your updates as we follow this closely here on Mottek on Money on 790 KBC. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz here on 790 KBC.
Your home is more than the sum of its parts. And creating a truly extraordinary space is about more than picking the perfect products. That's why the experts at Ferguson Bath, Kitchen, and Lighting Gallery are here to help you throughout the entire process to create a home that's as unique as you are. Bring your vision to us.
Schedule your showroom consultation and see more from brands like Jen Air at build.com/Ferguson.